This video, as I'm sure you know from the title, is about the Dead Air Odessa 9 9mm suppressor. Before I get into the main content, I wanted to let you know that when compared to all of the other Odessa 9 videos I've seen, I think my videos have the best representation of the actual sound you will hear in real life. It's still not exactly like hearing the suppressor in person, no video will be, but I can honestly say that the sound of the Odessa you hear in my videos, including this one and others where the Odessa 9 is featured, is very, very close to the actual real life sound and overall tone of the suppressor when using subsonic ammunition. Throughout this video, I'll be shooting Minuteman Munitions 147 grain subsonic ammo. There are some really good videos already out there on the Odessa 9, but I wanted to still make my own review video because I've seen some negative comments in other online reviews about not only the Odessa, but also many other suppressors, and I think those comments need to be addressed. I won't be able to get to all that stuff I've read and heard right now, but I'm still going to take on some of those comments in this video. I've seen firsthand, many times now, people going into the local gun shop that I use, which has a silencer shop kiosk that streamlines the process of buying a suppressor. They go in there and barely have a clue, or don't have any clue at all, about suppressors and start asking the owner of the store what he suggests. A lot of suppressor buyers I've seen with my own eyes and heard with my own ears, they want a suppressor and that's cool. But on the other hand, it seems like a lot of people don't want to take the time to do a little research and actually know anything about suppressors. I myself like to create specific setups, meaning a specific gun in a specific caliber for a specific purpose. I do like multi-purpose suppressors as well, suppressors that can be used with 20, 30, or even more different calibers, but generally I like creating a specific setup. I choose the gun and I set it up for its intended purpose by using accessories for that purpose. That also goes for the suppressor that I choose to put on the gun. I would never ever just randomly pick a gun or an accessory, and I would never ever randomly pick a suppressor or ask a gun shop owner what he or she suggests. Especially a suppressor, because for most people this is a big purchase with the cost of the suppressor itself and the $200 tax stamp. And the secondary market is basically non-existent, meaning that if you get a suppressor and you don't like it, you can't just put up an ad online and sell it whenever you want, in most cases. If you do that, you will certainly lose money, and probably a lot of money. I know that I would never buy a used suppressor, probably at all, and if I did, it would have to come with a huge discounted price because it's not worth buying a used suppressor just to save a few bucks, at least to me. So back to the Odessa 9, there are many different suppressors out there nowadays, and obviously not all of them are the same. They all have strengths and weaknesses, and two strengths of the Odessa is how slim it is and how modular it is. The Odessa is designed to primarily be a handgun suppressor, and most 9mm handgun suppressors are 1.37 inches in diameter, while the Odessa is only 1.1 inches. That might not sound like much of a difference, but its slim diameter was perfect for the setup I wanted to use it for, which is my Glock 19 Roni setup. By the way, if you like this Roni setup, you can see more of it using the link in the description. This is also meant to be a very compact setup, and the Odessa is also perfect for that because I can run the Odessa with however many baffles I want to make this setup as compact as I want it to be. Or that was the original idea. After using this setup for quite a while now, I usually just run the Odessa with all of its baffles installed, especially now that I'm using the Griffin Armament camlock system and it takes literally a second or less to remove and install the Odessa to the barrel of the Glock. In addition to 9mm, you can also shoot 22 through the Odessa, and if you're using subsonic 22 ammo, it sounds like a quiet pellet gun. With 9mm, it's not the quietest suppressor, but if you use the right ammo, it's still pretty freaking quiet. I wouldn't shoot hundreds of rounds without ear protection, but a magazine or two here and there is definitely comfortable to my ears. And remember all those new suppressor buyers I was talking about a minute ago? Well, that's one of the main complaints I've seen in reviews of suppressors, including the Odessa 9, that it isn't quiet. The only way this suppressor isn't quiet is if you're A, running it in a very short configuration, and or B, not using subsonic ammo. That's one of my biggest gripes with new suppressor owners. You see this all the time with ARs too. They get a suppressor, pop it on, and they expect it to sound like a James Bond gun. In case you don't know, with most suppressors and most guns, it just doesn't work that way. If you run the Odessa with 7 or more baffles and use a good subsonic ammo with a 147 grain to 165 grain bullet, it quiets the gun down significantly. If you pop it on your gun with 4 baffles installed and shoot some super hot supersonic 9mm round through it, don't be leaving reviews all over the internet with your caps lock on, yelling about how it's not quiet and was a waste of your money. The Odessa is a great suppressor if you want to use it for a setup like this, or just on a 9mm or even 22 handgun on its own. Especially since its slimmer design lets you use, in most cases, your stock sights on your gun and not have to spend money to upgrade to suppressor height sights. But a setup using a handgun like this, or a handgun by itself, that's it. That's all I would get this for. There are quieter 9mm suppressors out there. In my opinion, the CGS Mod 9, the rugged Obsidian 9, and also maybe even a few others like the Microtech R2K9, the Thunderbeast Fly 9, etc., are better options than the Odessa if you're strictly comparing 9mm suppressors on their own. But again, I wanted the Odessa because of its slim size, which was perfect specifically for this Roni setup, and so I could change how compact this setup can be. I have way more options with the Odessa than those other 9mm suppressors. So it was perfect for this particular setup. Here are some other quick notes about the Odessa 9 based on comments and questions I've seen. No, I've never had an issue with any of the baffles suddenly coming loose or loosening when firing, even though I do keep an eye on it while I'm using it. I've never had an issue. Yes, the finish is a little weird and it isn't even across all of the baffles. In fact, when I first saw mine, I really thought it was used because it looked like it had been fired a lot. But it's just the finish, and honestly most people would probably never even notice. I think the suppressor overall, including the finish, looks really cool. And now one of the big ones. Yes, it used to be sold with 11 baffles, but now only comes with 10. I actually reached out to Dead Air about this, and this was their email response. Unfortunately, we cannot offer any additional baffles for the Odessa 9. The design of this suppressor has been changed and is now documented as a 10 baffle design with the appropriate length, and we need to follow this design per regulation. I apologize for the inconvenience and unexpected change to the product you are researching. The engineers and designers of this product found sound suppression performance to begin falling off quickly after baffle number 10 and made the call to cut the 11th baffle based on that info. But here's the problem. At least when I'm filming this, all of their marketing stuff still mentions 11 baffles, and all of the lowest decibel numbers out there are based on using 11 baffles. This is a legitimate complaint, and I can see why some people are mad about it. Dead Air needs to change all of their printed stuff and online stuff, because imagine you spend $900, give or take a little, wait for months, maybe even a year, then open the box and find that there is a part of the suppressor that's missing that you were expecting to be there in the box. That's some grade A BS, especially when you start trying to find out what happened only to be told, oh, well, yeah, we changed the design and now it only comes with 10 baffles. Hello, that's not cool at all. I mean, come on. That needs to not happen. And no, you cannot just buy a single baffle to add to your Odessa. Dead Air will not sell you one. Moving on, yes, it can be a pain to clean because of all the individual baffles, but so can most other suppressors with baffle stacks. Monocore suppressors are by far the easiest to clean from my experience. At the time I'm filming this, Dead Air still hasn't come out with a piece that will allow the Odessa to be used on a fixed barrel firearm, but they are working on it, or so they say, and it might already be out there by the time you're seeing this. But I really can't see myself using the Odessa on any setup that has a fixed barrel, but I guess it's better to have that option than to not. As far as heat goes, yes, because of the small diameter, the Odessa does get pretty hot pretty fast, but so do most suppressors. And the biggest issue I had with the Odessa, when it was threaded onto the barrel of my Glock 19, the Odessa would start to loosen very, very quickly, sometimes within 5 to 10 shots. Now, this was just my experience, and I've not seen anyone else specifically mention this issue with the Odessa, and most importantly, threaded suppressors loosening is nothing new and happens all the time with all types of threaded suppressors. But loosening so fast was definitely an issue, and I was definitely not happy about that. Luckily, Griffin Armament came out with the Camlock system, which basically makes the Odessa a quarter-turn quick detach system. After installing the Camlock, I've had zero issues with the Odessa coming loose. So it's very, very modular, it's very, very slim, but it's not the quietest, even though it's still very quiet in a longer configuration and using subsonic ammo. That basically sums up the Odessa 9. If you're thinking about getting one, as with any suppressor, the key is knowing how you plan on using it and what type of setup or setups you plan to create with it. If you don't want or need a lot of modularity and you don't need the slimmer design, I would probably go with a different 9mm suppressor. However, if you set it up correctly and use it as it's intended to be used, the Odessa 9 is a great suppressor and I do recommend it.